and I'll toss it over to you later. I think you wanted to talk about that as well. But any kind of running backs that jump out off the bat as like a stopgap in that option for that option?
Absolutely not. I was looking through the list, and it doesn't excite me. It doesn't excite me anymore. I go back to what I was saying earlier. I think you need to rather than assessing free agency as just the players who are free agents. I think we need to assess free agency by the players we think we can get during free agency, and that's, I don't know, phoning like you said earlier about phoning a New Orleans about Michael Thomas. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. I actually think we will have better luck going that route than some of the free agents. Again, a lot of the free agents, you can see why they're free agents. Part of it's money, some of it's age, some of it's injury history. The big question will always be, well, if you're that good, the team you were on would want you still. You know, there's a reason Jason Sanders isn't hitting the free agent market. He's not even going to get to the opportunity to talk with other teams because the Dolphins don't want to get into that bidding war. And I think you can see that a little bit with some of the players who are available. I mean, I've got a list here, run through some players that are available. Kenyon Drake's the top of the list. Todd Gurley, Mark Ingram, Tevin Coleman, James White. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if James White gets a phone call for familiarity. He's under 30. I don't think he's going to be demanding huge money. Again, I've said it so many times. It seems so lazy to link old Patriots players, but it also kind of makes sense. We thought the same thing with Landon Roberts, and he played great at times this season. You know, you could see he was a great fit, and that made a lot of sense. It was more than just we know you. Moving down, we've got Matt Breida, Mike Davis, who I'll come on to in a minute, Rex Burkhead, Carlos Hyde, Leonard Fournette. You know, Frank Gore's on the list. Give me Frank Gore back. I absolutely have Frank Gore back. You know, Leonard Fournette, I'll touch on that because we've done some Tampa talk, so why not? You know, my brother's a Tampa fan and said, well, I think we'll retain Leonard Fournette because he won't be demanding big money. Someone will feel they're close enough to pay him enough to get him away from Tampa. You're not going to get him on the same deal you had him on last year. That's not happening because he's now won a Super Bowl. So someone's going to say, I can get Super Bowl winning running back at a young age, and all I've got to do is throw, you know, I know Tampa have got cap space as well. You know, they're not one of these teams that are in a real cap bind, but it just feels like, I don't know, I want to throw a name of a team out there just to stop. Yeah, there's going to be someone who thinks we're close. Let's pay a few extra million to guarantee we get Leonard Fournette in because we think a back is going to make a difference. You know, Chicago always feels like that team for some reason that they come out of nowhere to pay a lot of money for. I don't know. It just seems like someone a little bit obscure. Who was my mind's gone completely blank. Who was the edge rusher that we traded for from the Rams and traded to Dallas and ended up in Chicago?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Robert Quinn.
That's
the one. Robert Quinn. Do you know what I mean? Like that contract they gave him kind of came out of nowhere and was absolutely massive. You know, it's just, I don't know. They feel like that sort of team that's going to come out and pay Leonard Fournette way more than what the market has him valued at. I think the Mark Davis. Have I just got his name wrong?
Yeah, Mike Davis.
Mike. That's what happens when you look at a list of names. Yeah. So I think the Mike Davis one is a little bit interesting because I can see the appeal. I think he definitely played well. I think there's this interesting dynamic when you get a player like Christian McCaffrey go down is everyone immediately starts hitting panic buttons saying, oh my God, we're in so much trouble. Christian McCaffrey is down. And then when the backup does good, everyone's like, whoa, he must be really good because we didn't think we were going to be able to, you know, it's almost like you're never going to run the ball again. And we saw it last year, you know, when the running backs went down, the next guy came in and did just fine. And then that week, everyone was like, oh, great, we've got another running back. It's like, people will do a job. And he did good. That's great. But if Carolina are toying with the idea of packaging Christian McCaffrey, I don't think Mike Davis is hitting the market because that's a really simple fix. is to keep him in house.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I'll just sorry to because I'll throw a name at you that we have been linked with, Aaron Jones. It feels to me like if you're going to take anyone from this class and pay them big money, he's probably the guy to pay. What do you reckon? And anyone else you'd rather see instead?
I was just going to make this exact point, actually. Of all the running backs that Lee doesn't like on his list, and I agree with him, there aren't any on there that appeal to me either. There aren't any on there that, if we did sign, would deter them from taking another running back in the draft. The only exception to that is possibly Aaron Jones, given the size of his salary that, excuse me, they're going to have to pay. He's not going to be going in as a backup. He's going to have his fair share of carries, and if they do that, then I'm not sure they would give as much of a priority to a running back in the draft as if they would otherwise. So he's the only one out of that list that I can see impacting what they do in the draft. The thing with Mike Davis as well, he was the other one on my list that I kind of got half an eye on. Interestingly, he's been rumoured to be interested with the Seahawks this evening if Chris Carson departs from the Seahawks, and he's another one of the top names on the list, but too injury prone for me. And of course, Kenyon Drake arguably is a talented player, but he thought the grass was greener in Arizona, and it may not be, it may be, who knows. But if he was to return, it would only be nostalgia, I think, that would get him back. Given the Miami Miracle, I'm not sure he's the sort of back that would enhance the performance of the team on the field, even though he can catch the ball as a running back as well. So, so to answer your question, Andy, Aaron Jones is going to be the one who would generate that salary, that big salary. I'm not sure whether the Dolphins would be prepared to do that, given the fact that he's a running back, considering the talent that is younger and cheaper in the draft.
Yeah, it feels to me like he would be a great option for Tua, though, doesn't it? It feels like that, like Lee was saying earlier, that the ability to catch, get out of the backfield and stuff there is something that we have had to a certain extent with Gaskin over the last year, and we saw like Gaskin turn the burners on a few times and pick up big yardage. But Jones is just that little bit different, isn't it? It feels like, it feels like Green Bay would be silly to lose him because he's obviously got a good connection with Rodgers, and he obviously picks up a lot of yardage, in that offense. So it feels to me like it'd be a nice move for Miami. I think it'd be like a good safety blanket. But then if you want to talk draft talent, it feels like you could also get that with a Travis Etienne. He's that kind of same player, punchy through the like 3 down back, gets the ball in his hands a lot out of the backfield, and does a lot of damage in the passing game. So it feels like you've got to make your mind up which you want.
So just for fun then, if I say to both of you, rather than me spending money on Aaron Jones to get my running back, I will let you have a wide receiver of your choice or a safety of your choice, but I want Najee Harris or a Travis Etienne in the. Would you be willing to invest a pick where I say, right, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get that player to fix my backfield, but you've now got that money to spend somewhere else because I'm not paying an Aaron Jones that much and I'm not investing it over the next 4 years or whatever.
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's a sensible. Yeah, I think it's a sensible thing to do, isn't it? Sorry. So you as much as they're obviously people, but you run them into the ground for 4 years. You get them to give everything for your team, and then you let them walk, don't you? That's the kind of running back mold for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's not been a good record recently of running backs on second contracts doing anything, and it seems. I mean, obviously we've talked fantasy stuff in the past as well, and it seems that every year you get around to the start of the season and there's that running back from the year before that everyone's mega excited about, and they almost always get hurt in the first half of the season. We saw it with Saquon Barkley, we saw it with Christian McCaffrey. You just move them along, they do great this year, next year they get hurt, and it sounds ridiculous, but because of the way the team's built, where you've got all this money invested in the defense right now, if you can now invest some of the money in the offense to level it out, you get into this cycle where as the defense gets older and you start to look at replacing all those players, the offense is still that year behind if you can get it to work. Whereas with a running back, if you can get them on that 5-year deal, I can invest another pick in 4 or 5 years on a high price, on an early running back. I would hope there would be one in a draft in 4 or 5 years' time, provided it works out, of course.
The other thing with Aaron Jones, of course, is he only looking good because he's got Rodgers as his quarterback? Has Rodgers made him look good because opposing teams have had to account for Aaron Rodgers and his ability, and therefore aren't able to focus much on Aaron Jones? Is that a possibility? Do you think maybe?
Yeah, you saw like.
I was just going to say time will tell with whichever team signs him, but he's got potential bust written all over him, hasn't he?
Yeah, you saw like AJ Dillon come in for one game, didn't you, as the kind of second round rookie and absolutely killed it. So yeah, that's a good solid argument there, I think, around Jones. Last running back from me, who we haven't mentioned yet, is just Gus Edwards, and I think I've said him time and again this season. I think I've mentioned him several times on the podcast. He's got hardly any wear on his tires. He's 25. He's a kind of Najee Harris build running back. I like Gus Edwards as a free agency pickup. I don't necessarily like him as the like face of the running back room. I just think it's a very astute move, whoever goes and gets him. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins is the guy in Baltimore now. They've got rid of Mark Ingram. Edwards is a free agent. I just go and get him. He's a tank, and in short yardage situations, he's very effective. So that for me feels like a very nice pickup there, Conley.
The only other guy I think it's worth just touching on is Le'Veon Bell. I'm not saying that I would do it, but we had interest in the season. We heard that we offered the most money for him in the season, and that the reason that he didn't sign was because he wanted the opportunity to win with KC. Now, it might not be an option because KC didn't win. So, but depending on how things shake out, I wouldn't be surprised if a phone call's made. Because they like the versatility. Again, not to be the face of the running back room, not to make the highest paid running back in the NFL. None of that stuff. Just, we think you're a great fit for what we do.
A couple of things on Gus Edwards. So I'm using a cheat sheet compiled by Mike Clay, which I think you shared, Andy, with us, and I'm using that as the basis for looking at the list. And interestingly, Gus Edwards does not make his list of running backs, and there must be about at least 50 names on that list. And you've got to think, why is Gus Edwards not there if Andy's so high on him?
Maybe he's not a free agent. That could be a problem. But anyway.
I've missed him. And the other point I was going to make, somebody who is at the bottom of that list, surely we've got to sign LaShawn McCoy, because he's been on the Chiefs and the Buccaneers roster and won 2 Super Bowls without actually playing a snap in the Super Bowl. So if we sign him, guaranteed Super Bowl win, I think.
That's what we need, for sure.